Hi, fifth grade. We are going to pick up with lesson 87 of math. You need your math books, you do need your math manipulatives, and you need something to write with. So we are starting on page 453. I hope that you've read the lesson completely, all the examples, all the solutions, and I hope that you have read the lesson explanation on Jupiter. So we're talking about dividing fractions. In this lesson, we're just using manipulatives and sketches to divide fractions, but I've also explained the equation and the steps for that you would use to divide fractions later on when we're done using sketches and manipulatives. So starting out on page 453, we're asked what is 3/4 divided by 1/8. What that means is how many 1/8 are there in 3/4. So using your manipulatives or using a sketch, you would lay down 3 1/4 pieces to make 3/4 of a circle. And then you would lay down your 1/8 pieces over that and count how many 1/8 pieces it takes to cover the same space. So you should do that, and then you will be able to count and see that it takes 6 1/8 pieces. So that's to demonstrate to you that 3/4 divided by 1/8 equals 6. As you should see on Jupiter, I also went through the steps for an equation of how we would do that when we don't use our manipulatives. In order to divide fractions, we follow the same routine. We leave our first fraction alone. We just leave it completely as it is. 3/4 stays 3/4. Our next step, we change division, the division symbol, to multiplication, the multiplication symbol. Next, we flip over the second fraction. We put the denominator where the numerator is, and we put the numerator where the denominator is. So if we're starting with the fraction 1/8, we're going to flip it over and we're going to get the fraction 8 once, 8 over 1. Then we solve and simplify. 3 times 8 is 24. 4 times 1 is 4. So we get 24/4. We simplify that and then we get 6. Okay? We'll do a little bit of practice and I hope this will become clear. In our practice, we're going to use sketches because I don't have any manipulatives. My circles aren't perfect, they're just to demonstrate. So A is asking how many 1/6 are in 1/2. What that's asking is 1/2 divided by 1/6. So I have here my circle for A, right? I've drawn a circle and I've used, like a clock face, the hash marks in order to make divisions. So 1/2 is that. I've shaded the 1/2. I've divided it into 6 equal pieces, and I can count that there are 3 pieces in this 1/2. So my answer for 1/2 divided by 1/6 is 3. I hope you guys can see that. It's a little bit light. Okay. B is asking us how many 1/12 are in 1/3. All right, so that is asking what is 1/3 divided by 1/12. That's what it's asking. Okay, so my circle, I'm going to use the clock face to divide it into 12ths. I just have to make sure that I'm connecting the right. There we go. All right. That looks a little bit like a wonky spider web, and by a little bit, I mean a lot bit, but you get the idea. All right, so 1/3 is going to be that much. All right, you can see that that's 1/3 of a circle, or in this case, a kind of squishy, flat, oblong circle. I want to know how many 12ths are in that third, right? And I can count them, and I can count 4. There are 4 1/12ths in 1/3. So 1/3 divided by 1/12 is going to give me 4. Fair enough? Great. Practice C is asking 2/3 divided by 2/3. Right, so we're actually going to use the equation for this. In your book, it says to try and do this mentally. You can do that, but I want to show you how to use the division equation. So 2/3 divided by 2/3. 2/3, the first one, stays the same. My divided by, I change to a multiplied by. And then I flip over my second fraction to be 3/2. So that is my equation. Then I solve. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 over 6 equals 1. Okay? If you want, you can think it through. 2/3 divided by 2/3 is asking how many 2/3 pieces are there in 2/3? Obviously, 1. Great. D is asking 1 divided by 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to leave my first number the same. I am going to turn it into a fraction, so it becomes 1/1. I'm going to turn my divided by sign into a multiplied sign, and I'm going to flip over my second fraction. So my 1/4 becomes 4/1. Then I multiply and I simplify. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. I get 4/1. And that gives me 4. Right? You can think this through. If I want to know how many 1/4 pieces it takes to cover one whole circle, it's going to take 4 of them, right? Yes, of course. I can all hear you saying. All right, E is 2/3 divided by 1/3. All right, it's asking how many 1/3 pieces are in 2/3. I'm going to leave my first fraction the same. It's going to stay 2/3. I'm going to change my division to multiplication. I'm going to flip over my second fraction. So 1/3 becomes 3/1. So this 2/3 times 3/1 is my new equation. All right. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. And I get 6/3. 6/3 is going to simplify to 2. Right? So 2/3 divided by 1/3 equals 2. And I really need to make my division symbols a little clearer because they look like subtraction symbols. But that's okay. F is asking 1 divided by 1/2. All right? It's asking how many 1/2s are there in one whole. So I'm going to follow my steps. My first fraction stays the same. It's a whole number, so I have to turn it into a fraction. When I turn a whole number into a fraction, the whole number becomes the numerator. The denominator is always 1, so my new fraction is 1/1. My division is going to be turned into multiplication, and my second fraction gets flipped over. 2/1. So this is my new equation. 1/1 times 2/1. All right, when I solve, 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. I get 2/1, which simplifies to 2. All right. So that is how we divide fractions. I think it's really important for you guys to know the steps of dividing fractions. Your manipulatives and sketches are really helpful tools, but it's very important for us to learn the formula. So I hope this has been helpful. I'll see you guys here later on for more math. Bye, guys.